this is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
Friday. Kick off the Winter Olympics in style with the opening ceremony from Italy, featuring a special performance by Mariah Carey. Celebrate the greatest athletes from around the globe as they come together to go for gold.
Lindsey Vonn, sensational!
The opening ceremony of the Winter Olympics.
Ilya Malinin. Redefining the sport.
Friday at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
Body Bags with Joseph Scott Morgan. There's something about having an assigned parking space. You know, I've never had one. I've always thought that it would be kind of cool to have one, that no matter what happened, you know, you'd have a space to park your car when you showed up for work. I guess that, you know, there's always problems that arise. You'll have someone that takes your parking spot, but it might have your title on it. You know, it sounds kind of pretentious to a certain degree. But today I'm going to talk about somebody that had an assigned parking spot, but the conversation is also going to deal with another vehicle that was found parked and abandoned. Today, we're going to explore certainly a rather bizarre case that has come to us out of Georgia, but it has an Alabama connection. Today, we're going to talk about the bodies of 3 people that were found abandoned along the roadway in an isolated location of South Fulton County, just south of Atlanta. I'm Joseph Scott Morgan, and this is Body Bags. Dave, I was thinking about the idea of if you're somebody in authority in a place, maybe you're a manager or something like that, you work at the bank, or I don't know, in this case, you're an assistant principal. You know how they always have like the curb protector or whatever that thing is there, and it'll either be written in yellow or black or white, and it says assistant principal. And you got a spot to park in. It gives you the idea that this person is in charge. Right. They have authority. And boy, we've got an assistant principal who has finally recently resigned from his job. And wow, the reason for his resignation is he's got to set up a defense. Here
is the statement. Now, okay, he's arrested on a cold case murder that goes back 11 years. Here was the announcement the school made when Keontae Harris was arrested. The guy was an assistant principal at the time at McAdory Middle School in Jefferson County, Alabama, which is the Birmingham metro area. This is the assistant principal. They have 2 assistant principals. This was their statement when Keontae Harris is arrested. We have been made aware that Mr. Keontae Harris was arrested Wednesday afternoon. At this time, we still are gathering facts about the specifics of this situation. This is from the superintendent. However, early indications are that the charges are not related to this individual's employment with Jefferson County Schools. Per standard procedure, Mr. Harris had been placed on paid administrative leave. As more facts become available, we will act accordingly, according to our district's policies. So he's on paid administrative leave when he's arrested on a multiple homicide case dating back 11 years.
Yeah, well, let me tell you something, buddy. He's going to need every nickel that he can get.
Yeah.
Because this is as complex as it gets from a defense perspective. He's going to need, first off, a really good attorney, and he's going to need experts. I can tell you that.
Dating back on this, Joe?
Yeah.
January 13th, 2013. The bodies of Cheryl Colquitt Thompson, Quinones King, and Rodney Cottrell discovered inside a car along I-85 ramp in Union City. An officer on regular patrol stumbled upon the vehicle sitting idly on the northbound exit ramp. Shocking case.
And who would think that it would take this long to solve a triple homicide? And it's not like these bodies have been found thrown into a big hole out in the woods. It's not like you see remnants of bone that where something's been rendered down by fire. You're talking about arguably one of the busiest corridors, certainly in the South, as far as an interstate highway goes. And this car is literally found on the shoulder of the road, I think on the exit ramp, just sitting there. It was a Union City police officer. It's just on standard patrol. And I have this vision that he probably, hung a Huey in the middle of the median out there and swung back around, saw this car sitting up there and was thinking, okay, why is this car here? What's going on? And this is the kind of thing that's always fascinated me. What is it like to be a police officer and you're a finder of a body? In my career, I've found one body.
Really?
Yeah, I've only found one body. It was a homicide. It was a guy beaten to death with a hammer and wrapped in a carpet. And there were other people killed. We didn't know about that body, and I happened to find it.
Wait a minute, back up. How did you find, were you looking for him, or you just...
Going room to room, and I caught a whiff of something, of a foul odor, and this guy was stuffed back in a closet. And I happened to find him in there, and they just stuffed him in there. And that's the only time out of all the thousands of deaths I've ever worked, Dave, that was the first time I ever actually found a body.
Wow.
I found things like bits of skull or bits of skeleton, that sort of thing, when we're doing excavations, but never like an intact body. So this, I'm calling him a kid. He's, he wheels off the road, comes up the ramp, and, if it's late at night or whatever, and there's nothing else going on, and you're a police officer, you're looking for things to do. And can you imagine? He walks up to this vehicle. He's probably got his lights on. He's pulled up behind it, and he's got his flashlight out. Well, Dave, when he comes walking up to the back of this vehicle, it's a 2010 Dodge Charger on the side of the road. He's got his flashlight out, and he starts peering in the windows. And the first thing he sees are two dead bodies in the back seat. No, they're not. They're not. It's not sleepy time. And then, as it turns out, there was one more in the trunk.
Yeah,
I can't even imagine the thought that ran through this kid's mind. When he looked inside of the vehicle and he discovers this. Your first reaction would have to be one of shock, even as seasoned as you might be. But, he's dealing with a car. And here's the thing that we don't know a lot about right now, Dave. How long had that car actually been there? And I think that that's something that they're probably going to try to explore in this, Dave.
Now, you spent a lot of time in the Atlanta metro area.
Yeah.
And when I was looking at this, I wondered, do they have cameras along, like, 85, 75, 285 around Atlanta, those major thoroughfares? Do they have cameras at the on-ramps, off-ramps, where maybe... At that particular time, I think that it would have been, because we're talking, how many years now are we talking? 2013, so, 11.
Yeah. And so I can't say specifically. I know that over the years there have been problems with cameras actually working. If they have them nowadays, I think that they probably would. So you're really rolling the dice. Today, if this happened today, I think that there would be a higher probability that you would be probably discovered and found out.
So they would actually start looking at records for Union City police officers that were in that area to determine when the car was actually parked, because they usually put a tag on them at a certain point after the vehicle is seen abandoned on the side of the road.
Yeah, they do. It's that orange sticker, and it's impossible to get off of a car. They make it that way.
Right.
And so wouldn't that be something if you had a police officer that pulled up, saw that it was abandoned, didn't pay any attention to what was in there, stuck a sticker on there and just drove off. And I don't think that's what happened. I think that this guy is he's first eyes on this thing. But I think that what's really interesting about this car, and I can't wait to get into this with you, Dave. What's really interesting about this car is the fact that this car may very well be the key to everything that's going to unfold as this case continues to develop.
Friday. Kick off the Winter Olympics in style with the opening ceremony from Italy, featuring a special performance by Mariah Carey. Celebrate the greatest athletes from around the globe as they come together to go for gold.
Lindsey Vonn, sensational!
The opening ceremony of the Winter Olympics.
Ilya Malinin.
Redefining this sport.
Friday at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
As with all things, you have to consider the nature of a scene, the components, the elements that are there before you as an investigator. What's fascinating about crime scenes involving motor vehicles is the mobility. Because, just to back up a little bit, with crime scenes, we have primary, secondary, and we have tertiary. And those come to mean different things with different people. But Dave, right now, we're thinking about a car, a sedan, it's a four-door sedan, abandoned on a ramp in broad daylight, mind you, even though it may have been dark when the car was found, but in broad daylight where everybody can see it. That's kind of bold. I don't know what you think about it. It's kind of bold to me.
Well, that's what I was asking. When trying to determine when was the vehicle parked in this spot, and why did they choose this spot? We know oftentimes that perpetrators will bury a body near something they are familiar with, and I'm wondering if that was the case here. This Charger is abandoned on a ramp on 85 in Union City, Atlanta metro area. But they find out that the victims, because you got to identify the victims first. Who are they and why are they here? And in identifying, they find out that all three of these victims, they're from Montgomery, Alabama. And something else immediately gets thrown into the fray. Montgomery is a military town. So now you've got potentially people that live in Montgomery, but they could be from anywhere. You have to track it back. And then we know, so we're actually starting at the end. We have the bodies in the car. They're dead. How did they end up here? Just because they're from Montgomery doesn't mean necessarily that they were killed in Montgomery and brought to this area of the world without forethought. Did you kill them and just say, you know what? I think I feel like going for a ride with two dead bodies in the back. And I'm just wondering, do we know where John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson were in this time period, 2013? Because last time I heard of anybody, driving a car with a dead body in the back was in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, he shot Marvin in the face. Well, the interesting thing about it is it turns out these homicides actually originated out of Jonesboro, Georgia.
Jonesboro, Georgia now.
Yeah, and so we've got individuals.
How do you get to Jonesboro, and where is Jonesboro in relation to Union City?
It's immediately, okay, so geographically, Jonesboro is in Clayton County, and Clayton County has a dividing line, obviously, between Fulton, and it's on the south side of Fulton County where, Union City is. It's just that,
again, all this in the Atlanta metro area.
It's all in the Atlanta metro area. So Clayton County and the town of Jonesboro, which I think is the county seat. I'm not sure. I think that's accurate. It is to the east. Okay. So this case is actually being worked out of Clayton County, Georgia, because they have apparently enough evidence to conclude that these three individuals had been taken hostage, and they were essentially lured into a residence in Jonesboro, Georgia, And Dave, the authorities are saying that not only were these three killed, but they were tortured. They were tortured at this location, and there's a lot going on here because if you're a perpetrator and you're staring at this idea of well, okay, we've tortured them. First off, what's your goal with the torture? And secondly, we've killed them. Why did you kill them? Now, what are we going to do with them? And it's quite the conundrum to be in. Backing
up, I made a note. How do you know that they were lured? How? Just starting with something as simple as that. We're starting with 3 dead bodies, 2 in the backseat, 1 in the trunk, on an off-ramp on I-85 in the Atlanta metro area. How in the world can you know they were lured anywhere?
I think that what happened in this particular case, because it is, as you had stated from the top, and rightly so, Dave, that this is a cold case. And somebody along the way has, let's see, how is it framed most of the time, has rolled over on somebody else at this point in time. And in order to, because this is not, when you start talking about luring and you start talking about torture, which you could see evidence of that at autopsy, and then obviously you have the murders. That's very specific. As a matter of fact, not only is it specific in that sense that they were lured, we know the address to which they were lured to. And so you've got a point of origin. So how would police be able to mine that information out of there unless there was another person that had rolled over, had provided information that is very, very specific? And to follow this thread as more information comes out about this case, it's going to be fascinating to see who this person was that's going to tell the tale, because this isn't just a random, Dave, this is not just a random homicide. It's not like some kind of drive-by thing. It's not. There was planning that went into this. Whenever this thing finally makes it to court, this is going to be an explosive case, because you're going to learn a lot of dirty details. And of course, the reason it got on our radar, other than it's this guy worked, the principal that's been charged works in Alabama, is the fact that it's so bold. Right. When you begin to think about a car abandoned with 3 bodies in it, it's going to catch our attention when we're doing research.
Caught everyone, because this story broke locally, obviously, because of Alabama, Georgia, and Atlanta. But we're talking within 24 hours, it's in People magazine on their online service, Daily Mail, the New York Post. It got national coverage, mainly because you've got a currently working assistant principal arrested. Yeah. This is a guy who yesterday was, in charge of your 13-year-old at school.
Stop running in the hallway.
Yeah, no running in the halls.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
All right, Herman, you stole Dave's lunch money again. Give it back. Now, he's actually charged with a triple homicide, and you've got all of the people who worked with him. He's such a nice guy. He did the school play. He helped Johnny with his homework. This was a good man. Yeah. He did what? There's no way. You got the wrong guy. Yeah. So I'm wondering, though, how do they put these things together when it's a cold case? They end up with 4 people arrested in 3 different states. And they did it. They coordinated all of this at the same time so that no word spread amongst them. Yeah. So that, boom, boom, boom. This was a highly coordinated effort to get all these people in custody. But again, I go back to how do you know they were lured at gunpoint? And how do you know how do you know any of this? Again, you've got somebody has cracked, but the police had to be working it really hard silently to get that person to crack.
Yeah, you would have, and this is a multi-agency event. You're going to have the authorities in Clayton County, and I would imagine probably the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. It would not surprise me if the feds got involved in this. This is something that's found out on an interstate highway. You don't know if someone, when you initially roll up on this thing, you don't know if if this was a kidnapping gone bad, maybe somebody went across state lines. So, and
Wow.
that doesn't necessarily mean that happened, but I can tell you this. The police that have been working this case these many years have got all of these resources at their beck and call and at their fingertips. And as this moves forward, it's going to be one of these things where they're going to bring all of this force to bear against these 4 people that are now in custody.
Friday. Kick off the Winter Olympics in style with the opening ceremony from Italy, featuring a special performance by Mariah Carey. Celebrate the greatest athletes from around the globe as they come together to go for gold.
Lindsey Vonn, sensational!
The opening ceremony of the Winter Olympics.
Ilya Malinin.
Redefining this sport.
Friday at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
In my world, the medical legal world, we have a front row seat to observe how different jurisdictions of police officers work with one another. This case that is coming out of Union City, Georgia, in Fulton County, Georgia, is a fascinating study in that you have at minimum 3, maybe 4 agencies that are going to be involved in this case. And it's something to see how you kind of do the dance, because as an ME person, you'll get multiple requests, and it might be for the same thing. It's kind of like duplication of requests from different jurisdictions that many times won't know what the left hand and the right hand are doing. Most of the time it's kind of smooth because you're going to have a lead agency. And in this particular case, little old Union City Police Department, Dave, picks this case up.
Right. Not the Union City is not a department. The police department is not one of these departments that has a lot of money. Okay. Matter of fact, the reason you don't get stopped in Union City, Georgia, for having a headlight out is because the cop car probably has one out too. That's how that is. But it's part of the Atlanta metro area. And because of that, I was wondering, Joe, the overlapping jurisdiction for police is one thing, but you've also got the medical people involved because you've got county areas that change, but also you've got multiple states. You've got the victims here. All 3 victims are from Montgomery, Alabama, and we have their bodies found in the Atlanta metro area. But I'm curious because by the way, haven't even mentioned the other suspects here: Kenneth Thompson, Kevin Harris, and Daryl Harris. We do not know if Keontae Harris, Kevin Harris, and Daryl Harris are related. We don't know that. Haven't said that yet. But
if I were a betting man,
yeah.
There might be connectivity there.
Yeah, you might see that. But that actually would play into it as well. Because who's to say? I mean, again, they have pointed out that they know, and goes back to what you were pointing out, Joe, of course, that somebody told the police what happened. They already know. Now they're filling in the blanks. How do you go from Montgomery, Alabama to knowing that they were they were lured at gunpoint into a house on Magnolia Drive, that they were tortured before their dead bodies were put into the vehicle? By the way, were their bodies dead when they got in the car, or were they loaded into the car and shot, stabbed, or what have you? I don't even know how they died yet, but were they killed inside the car, or were they killed, like, for instance, Joe, were they driving down the road thinking, hey man, whatever's happened, it's cooled off, we're all good, we're just going on a road trip now, and the guys pull over off the side of the road on 85 and pop, they're dead? I mean, I'm just asking because I don't know. I know that they said they were tortured in the house on Magnolia Drive, but that doesn't mean they were killed there. They could have been tortured and then put in the car and killed.
Yeah, they could have been killed in any number of places.
Right.
They could have been placed in the car, driven out somewhere else, killed, placed back into the car. And there's all these permutations when you begin to think about it. And I go back to what I'd said about primary, secondary, and tertiary. And that's why all of this plays in to these scenes.
What about medical examiners, coroners, the people involved in the dead body phase of this?
Yeah.
Because I'm wondering who actually not just takes the lead, because again, there are 3 bodies that have to be examined and one person has to be in charge of this, right?
Yeah, it would be my old office, the Fulton County Medical Examiner's office.
Because the bodies were found in Fulton County.
Yeah, and it stops there. And so that all medical legal agencies like this cover multiple jurisdictions. So Fulton County alone has got, I can't tell you how many individual municipalities where each one of those little cities, towns has their own police department they'll work major crimes.
What?
And then you have a county police department, which doesn't quite exist in the same forms it used to. Then you've got the city of Atlanta. So you've got all of these different jurisdictions, and you've got Union City. But there's only one medical examiner.
Wow.
It's not like there's multiple forensic pathologists. You can just, it's one medical examiner. So all 3 of these bodies would have gone down. And look, I've been present at a scene where I've got multiple law enforcement agencies that are there looking over my shoulder while I'm doing what I have to do at a scene. And then what's really fascinating is you get a triple homicide like this. You might have 4 or 5 people show up in suits to the autopsy, and they're all from different jurisdictions. They want to know what's going on with this thing, and they'll all be there at this central location to observe the autopsy or to speak with the pathologist or the ME investigator. So it's beneficial in the sense that you have kind of central control in that. And, not control, that's overstating the authority, but you have a pivot point that everybody can kind of go from there. Now, you'll have the lead in a case like this. Here's the thing. If the homicides actually took place jurisdictionally in Clayton County, Georgia, they would probably pick up the case because the murders, and these individuals have been charged, and Georgia's got a real interesting murder statute. They call it malice murder. And you don't have like degrees, like first degree, second degree, all that stuff. You have malice murder. I wish we had Nancy here right now to actually explain the finer points, but because she prosecuted in Fulton County. So
I didn't know that.
So it would actually be probably prosecuted by the Clayton County DA. But here's the thing. We know that there's a specific address. We know that we've got this conveyance, this 2010 Dodge Charger. I think what I would be very curious about, because you're talking about a very bloody affair, Dave. You're talking about a house on Magnolia Drive in Jonesboro, and there ain't too many mansions in Jonesboro, all right? It's not going to be a gigantic house, I wouldn't think. I would think you would have a central location where maybe these people have been corralled and tortured and maybe murdered right there. After all these years, I wonder if there's going to be something that can, as far as physical evidence, that could connect these individuals to that specific location as a murder site. Or is this going to be an eyewitness account of somebody that says, yeah, we saw them all be placed on, that they've been beaten up with a baseball bat or they've been cut or something like that, and they're screaming for their lives, and then you've got them on the ground, before you.
Right.
And, I come back to this kind of specter that's involved in all of this, an assistant middle school principal. And when you frame it in there and you think that he's lording over this, perhaps, I don't know, maybe he was just peripheral to it. Maybe he wasn't in charge of what was going on. But how does an assistant principal get themselves into this kind of position, a guy that is in, a respected position of authority, who's in charge of children,
right?
And to ascend to that kind of level, you have to have certain academic credentials as well. And that's kind of fascinating.
You got to figure out that the guy, first of all, the 45-year-old assistant principal was not a 45-year-old assistant principal at the time this took place. No. He was in his early 30s. We don't even know what his background was at that time. Was he working as a teacher? We don't know yet. But let me ask you a couple of quick ones here, Joe, because this is what the actual statement from the Clayton County Sheriff's Office said. It was determined through the investigation that all 3 victims were tortured and murdered in Clayton County and dumped in Fulton County. They said Colquitt Thompson's body had been stuffed in the trunk. That was the term they used, stuffed in the trunk. King and Cottrell were both located inside the vehicle, presumably in the back seat, because somebody would have had to have driven, and I can't imagine riding down the road with a dead body next to you. But what do we know about the dead bodies? Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office is saying that King and Cottrell were found dead from asphyxiation in the back seat. And Colquitt Thompson, of course, we said, was in the trunk from strangulation. Now, is there a difference when they say Colquitt Thompson was found dead in the trunk from strangulation and that King and Cottrell were dead from asphyxiation?
That's a fascinating point, because you're changing your verbiage. You know, why not say strangulation on all 3? As opposed to 2 where you're saying asphyxiation and 1 is a strangulation. Strangulation is very specific. When you think about the action of strangulating someone, are you wrapping your hands around their throat? Are you using a ligature? Have you hung them, which does happen? And again, it goes to torture. Asphyxiation can mean any number of things, where you might perhaps smother them in some way, or something that's quite heinous. You have them in a chair and you place a plastic bag over their head. That's an asphyxial death. And again, we're talking about an element of torture here, Dave, because with torture, I would think that you would kind of tie that back with physical evidence that might be found on the body, evidence that they had been tortured in life, and then this concurrently brought about their death. But that scene itself will reveal information about what they found in that car. And here's another interesting issue here. Let's just say that none of these individuals had ever been in that car before. None of the 3 victims. All of a sudden, if we go back to my buddy Lecard's supposition about every contact leaves a trace, if you're in that residence at Magnolia, depending upon the surface you're on in there, maybe carpet, whatever the case might be, what did they find on those bodies and within that car that could potentially tie that car and that house together? This remains to be seen. I'm Joseph Scott Morgan, and this is Body Bags.
This February, Aldous Hodge returns as Alex Cross, your favorite detective on television, for Season 2 of the hit show Cross, premiering February 11th exclusively on Prime Video. Fresh off his capture of the infamous serial killer The Fanboy, Cross teams up with the FBI to hunt down a vigilante serial killer targeting corrupt billionaires. As the case unfolds, Cross navigates a moral crossroads where the lines between justice and vengeance are blurred. Catch Season 2 of Cross, with new episodes dropping weekly starting February 11th, only on Prime Video.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed Human.